We are working with one of our 1031 exchange clients that is looking to acquire a multifamily property, and I thought it'd be good to shoot a video and give some background steps of what we do as a team to help narrow down and find the right exchange properties. All right, so for the exchange, we certainly need to make sure that we line up the timing, the equity, and any debt we need to take out to make sure that we meet all the requirements. But diving a little bit further, when we talk to a lot of investors, they say, look, I'm just looking for a good deal. What does that mean? We need to dive into what makes a good deal. So number one is a path to positive leverage. That has been the most challenging thing to acquire, is positive leverage. We're not getting it right now in this market where we've got cap rates below 5 most of the cases, and the cost of debt is now in the mid 6s. So it's a big challenge. So day one, getting positive leverage is not gonna happen, but we wanna see a path to positive leverage. If there's a chance to where we can get north of a 6 cap in a pro forma, it might take year 2 or 3, but does the property have a lot of upside to where you can start having the NOI get closer and the cap rate start at least getting neutral to the cost of debt. All right, so number 2 is gonna be deal size. Say, for example, a client has a property they can then sell and acquire up to an $8 or $10 million property. We're gonna look a little wider outside of those specific ranges. We'll start searching between 5 and call it 12 million. You never know, maybe we find a bigger property, there's some softness in the pricing, and we can get that property at a lower price for our client, or possibly break it up and get 2 properties. All right, so number 3 is location. Location is certainly the most important thing to me because you can't fix the location, but you can fix the property. So we really like going into these high barrier to entry markets where they're not making any more apartment buildings, people want to live there, and the values hold up, especially in times when the market starts to cycle. What we also do is there might not be as much transaction volume in these premier markets, so we always want to have a wider geographic lens when we're looking for properties, and we have helped find investors properties where they're not even looking. So we're looking in their specific markets, but we have a wider area, and we've found some great opportunities that way. All right, so number 4 is condition. Now, when we look at deep value add opportunities, those make a lot of sense because you can get a big lift and create a lot of value. However, those are challenging, especially in times where financing is challenging. Buyers have to put down a lot more, and then they need extra reserves to then fix up the properties, and then we're dealing with insurance becoming more and more challenging. I think condition is really important, especially to where you've got the money for a big down payment, and you don't want to then shell out a bunch of cash and renovate the property. So we're looking for properties that are in pretty good shape, but not only are they in good shape, they're just from an operations perspective, not going to require a bunch of cash or need a bunch of headaches. So we're looking at properties that are not 3-story walk-ups or with elevators. Those are not as ideal. Depends on the market you're in and what product's there. But if you could, single-story assets, or if you could get something where there's townhouses with a lot of land, no subterranean parking, those are the things that are really important in addition to the asset's condition itself. All right, last but not least is product. What kind of product are we buying? Now, if we're looking at single-story product or townhouse product, those are 2 of my personal favorites. You want to make sure something's well parked, individually metered. These are all things that we really like to see, a property without a lot of decks and railings and whatnot. And then older product, you got older paneling. I mean, no property's perfect, but if we can find some things like single story in the townhouses, big floor plans, I think those are really important. 2-bedroom units are always in vogue, and we want to look at retention. You know, we get something single story or big units, people are going to want to renew and stay more likely than maybe a smaller unit, and a lot of 1-bedrooms, typically those turn over a lot more. And the profitability of apartment ownership is going to be retention, right? That's a big deal. So I think the product, what you're buying, is really important. And if we're looking for a path of positive leverage and we're looking for single story product, you know, I'd be willing to give up more of cash flow to get the product. And I think that's really important and just hold for long term. So it just depends. You can't have it all. But out of these 5 items, when we're looking at assets, if we see a property, we look every single day, multiple times a day. We're on the phones talking to investors. And if we see a property and it checks 3 out of these 5 boxes, then we're immediately taking a hard look at that property. If it checks 4 out of the 5 boxes, we're immediately getting out and putting eyes on the property. I think that's something that's really important. So no property's perfect. If you're looking for something to check all 5 boxes, probably it doesn't exist, and if it does, it's gonna get bid up. So I think you gotta have the mindset knowing in an exchange, you gotta give up a little something, to get certain things. So people want more units, you might have to give up a little bit of cash flow in the short term. Right? That's an example there. So overall, these are the things that we're doing to find the right exchange property for our investors and do the matchmaking and line everything up. So hopefully this is helpful. If you're thinking about doing an exchange, let us know. We're here and happy to help.